In this video, we're going to be taking a look at something that has a direct impact on the lives and futures of every student taking their GCSE or AS and A-level exams in 2021. That's summer 2021. If that's you, then make sure that you're paying attention because we're going to go through every single subject and have a look at exactly what Ofqual are proposing that they change. Unfortunately for everyone today, you will not see my usual handsome visage. Instead, we're going to be scrolling through this document, this consultation on proposed changes to the assessment of GCSEs, AS and A-levels in 2021. Okay, so buckle up because we're going to go through every single subject. Okay, so let's begin. Here's the document, the consultation document that Ofqual put out. If we jump down to page 16, past all these walls of text, we will find the proposals for each GCSE subject. And it says here, in this section, we will summarize the current exam and assessment requirements for each GCSE subject and the exam and assessment arrangements we are proposing for next year. And remember, these are proposals. These are not the definite choices and decisions that they're making moving forward. That's still up for consultation. So for the avoidance of doubt, we propose that these changes should apply only to students who will be awarded the qualifications in summer 2021. I'm still not quite sure what avoidance of doubt means, but I take this as this is only happening for summer 2021 and it's not going to happen any other time. So let's get started. So we'll start with ancient history, which is currently 100% examination. What they're proposing for next year is to keep that 100% examination, but for students to have a choice of topics on which they have to answer questions. And the reasoning behind that is that they use that content sampling that we mentioned in our last video to reduce pressure on the teaching time. Okay, so sightless content will need to be learned because you're only going to need to answer certain questions, or you're going to have a choice of which questions to answer. Art and design, my favourite, being an art teacher. So art and design is 100% NEA, that's non-examination assessment. Everything is of course done within the art room setting, by 60% portfolio and 40% externally set assignment. Of course you do have your 10-hour exam in that, but it's not following exactly the same system as your typical exams like maths, English and the rest. They're proposing that this be changed to 100% NEA, but only with the portfolio, so get rid of the externally set assignment. And for the moderation, it will be carried out by photographic and digital portfolios rather than people coming in and having a look. And the reasoning behind this is to just reduce the pressures on teaching time and on the use of specialist resources, which makes sense. It is tough to get all the work done, especially if students don't have access to all the materials. And so taking away some of that stress and pressure that's put on by the exam period in the later part of year 11, well, that is good. What more can I say? For those of you who haven't been working in year 10, this is why you should always be working throughout your school, throughout whatever course that you're doing. Never leave things to the last minute. All right. When your teacher tells you to hand in a piece of work, hand in that piece of work. Use summer holiday to catch up if you haven't already. All right, on to astronomy. 100% examination before, 100% examination now. That's fine. To be honest, I don't know many schools that teach astronomy as an actual choice. Back when I did astronomy in GCSE, we were taught it by sixth forms, so and we taught ourselves it, so it can be done. It's not such a big thing. It doesn't need changing, in my opinion. Biblical Hebrew, 100% examination before, and they're proposing that it stays as 100% examination now. I didn't even know that this was a subject. That's quite brilliant, actually. Yeah, so no changes there. Biology. Okay, before it was 100% examination with at least 8 practical activities that cover required apparatus and techniques. For the proposal, the examination stays, which means that the content stays as well. But they want to remove they want to lessen the need for having all the students do the practical activities. Instead, they want to permit observations of those activities, which I think is a pretty good idea. I explained that in the video before already. And of course, that reason is to reduce pressures on teaching time and to accommodate potential ongoing public health restrictions. Because of course, you have to work closely with other people when you're doing those sorts of things, or work with materials that multiple people touch. Okay, on to business. 100% examination before. They're still saying 100% examination now. That's fair enough. Chemistry, 100% examination before, and at least 8 practical activities, just like biology. And that's saying exactly the same thing. So just would lessen the need for, lessen the requirements for how much practical experiments have to be done by students. Instead, letting them just observe it instead. On to citizenship studies. In the past, it's been 100% examination. Centres are required to submit a statement regarding student involvement in citizenship action, which is covered in exam questions. So, what I'm proposing is the examination stays, still 100% exam, but leave it to the exam boards to provide guidance on the citizenship action that they need to do, and it has to, of course, be in a socially distanced context. So, yeah, they just need to figure out how to make it work with what's happening in the world at the time. So, to me, that seems like they're saying, let's wait and see what happens. Classical civilization, still 100% examination, just like it was before. Same for classical Greek as well. Combined science. All right, 16 practical activities were supposed to be happening for this, along with the 100% examination. It's got the same thing as the other sciences that we saw before. So, reducing those practical experiments. Computer science, which was 100% examination before, and required completion of a supervised programming project in 20 timetabled hours. And they're saying allow it to be done, or proposing that it should be done in unsupervised time. So you don't need anyone looking over your shoulder to make sure that you're only working in those 20 hours. And the reason for this is to allow teachers to decide how best to use their teaching time. So this sort of ties in with what I said a few videos ago when talking about how our focus should be on teaching. So, and exams and preparing for exams can sometimes take away from that. So if students are being left to make this stuff in their own time or work on it in their own time, then teachers can focus just on teaching them that content, which I think is a pretty good rationale behind that. Now, dance, they did say was going to undergo quite a lot of change because of its collaborative nature. And as you can see, it's a very, very long section. Okay, so let's have a look over this. So currently, dance is 40% examination and 60% non-exam assessment, and requires the completion of performance of choreography, and that all needs to be looked at, moderated, and graded. So what they're suggesting is that stays the 40% examination and the 60% NEA, but they want to reduce the requirements of that performance assessment. You won't have to do group performance, and your performances should still be able to match what's required and what would have been required in the group one as much as possible. It should still try and hit those markers. The performances themselves have been shortened. Before they were 2 to 3 minutes or 1 to 3.5 minutes. Now they're saying no more than 2 minutes. They should be around 1.5 to 2 minutes, which I guess is quite a big change because now you've got to squish in a lot more, especially if you're going for higher grades. You've got to squish in a lot more in a lot less time. And of course, there's now a lot more use of audio-visual recordings and stuff like that to keep record of stuff. And also there's this portfolio which exam boards may ask for, which will include almost like a sketchbook similar to art and design, where you've got collations of the sort of your process in producing your work, which actually sounds very, very interesting, and could actually, if this is implemented, could actually have a longer lasting effect, because this actually sounds very interesting, having these sketches, these images and photographs. Yeah, these look really interesting. So it's all about reducing pressures on teaching time and making sure that we're all staying socially distanced and we're staying safe. And I think that these proposals are actually pretty solid, but although I'd like to hear what some of you dance students say. Okay, on to DT. 50% examination and 50% NEA in the past. And the NEA is a portfolio and prototype of an iteratively designed response to an exam board set brief. So what the suggestion is, what the proposal is for that to stay, the 50-50 split, but to permit exam boards to accept mock-ups or clear detailed intentions or prototypes, permitting demonstrations of using machinery, tools or processes. And once again, the reasons are the same: to reduce pressures on teaching time and social distancing and public health restrictions. This one, I think, will definitely ease up time a bit. It's sort of like the art one, where they're just making it a little bit less pressured by giving you a bit more time and taking away that external or that final element of it. All right, on to drama. Drama's got a massive section as well. It looks like it's very, very, very similar to the dance changes. So reducing the amount of time that people are supposed to perform, allowing more monologues and solo work, and this suggestion of a possible portfolio that may include stuff, images, sketches, and things like that, and drawings to support what they intend to do and support their thinking behind their work. And also with the text-based performance, there seems to be a whole lot more written on that. So once again, it's working with sort of sketchbooks and maybe not sketchbooks, but portfolios, information, and getting across your ideas, what you're thinking, what you're planning, your prototypes, your costumes, stuff like that. So really, I think that this is really interesting because it's going more, because I think it's almost tying it in a bit more to, how things are in the real world. A little less practical, but a lot more thinking and theoretical. Economics, 100% examination in the past, still 100% examination, no changes there. Electronics, I'm surprised this is separate from DT. Okay, so 80% examination and 20% NEA. So the NEA is a student set teacher verify system designed and realization task. That's what it's been in the past. By the looks of it, no change to that. 8% examination, 20% NEA. So that carries on. Engineering, 60% examination, 40% NEA. That's proposed to stay the same. Although they're also proposing that exam boards can permit prototypes, detailed prototypes, and may also not require students to actually use the equipment. Just them watching it, just like with the science changes, that would be fine. English language, 100% examination in the past. Separate reported grade for spoken language, although spoken language was a requirement, and teachers also had to send off a sample so that the exam could check that it was marked properly. It's sort of moderation. So they're still proposing to keep 100% examination, and they're still saying that they want to keep the spoken language part too, but it doesn't have to be sent off. Instead, spoken language assessment can now take place before a single teacher who can represent an audience, and spoken language assessment may be conducted at any time during the course. So it's just about flexibility and allowing teachers to not make such a big deal of the spoken assessment. So it saves time for the teachers and also allows for social distancing to take place, of course, because that's what most of these have behind them. So it doesn't actually look like they want to mess with English language too much. English literature, 100% examination, 100% examination. No changes there. Film studies, in the past, 70% examination and 30% NEA, and it also required students to produce an extract from a genre-based film or an extract from a genre-based screenplay with a shooting script, both in response to an exam board set brief and with evaluative analysis of your own work. Now, what they're proposing is that those percentages stay the same, but instead they permit exam boards to accept prototypes or mock-ups with supporting evidence as necessary of the extract of the screenplay or the film. And the evidence of this may include photographs, images, sketches, and that sort of stuff, the sort of stuff that we saw from the drama and the dance. And this is just, of course, for reducing pressures on teaching time and safety as well. Food preparation and nutrition, 50% exam, 50% NEA. There's of course all this breakdown on the left of how that works. So certain dishes in certain time and so on. They propose that this stays the same in terms of 50% exam and 50% NEA, but they propose that NEA 1, the food science investigation, is removed completely and is just replaced with teaching. So that's 8 to 10 hours investigation that's being removed. That's quite a big change. And NEA 2 can be released a bit earlier, and the requirement of the dishes can go from 3 dishes in 3 hours down to 2 dishes in 2 hours. And of course, demonstrations can be seen rather than actually done. So that's quite a massive change. It's quite a bit of a workload taken off. Onto geography. 100% examination in the past with some field work and a statement saying that those field works have been done. That's 2 occasions outside of school and also in school grounds. They are saying 100% examination still, but you don't have to do any field work anymore, and you don't have to answer any questions in relation to that. Geology, similar sort of thing. So 100% examination in the past, and that's been kept, but they're proposing that although the field work should stay, it should be done in shorter sessions or activities. Okay, it shouldn't be as long. And of course, once again, demonstrations can be watched rather than being actually carried out by the students. History stays the same. 100% exam, 100% exam. Although they have a choice of topics. So sort of like we've seen with, I think it was ancient history in the beginning, where they said give it some choice, which allows teachers to teach less. So this is content sampling. It allows teachers to teach less, or if they teach more, the students can have more choice of what to answer. And that of course is with the aim of saving time. Alright, Latin, no difference. 100% examination, 100% examination. Okay, maths. So it's always been 100% examination with 2 calculated papers and 1 non-calculator paper for all exam boards apart from EduCAS, which I've never actually heard of before. But EduCAS only need 1 calculated paper and 1 non-calculated paper. They are proposing that it stays as 100% examination, but they haven't really said anything about what to do moving forward, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Media studies, in the past 70% examination, 30% NEA, and they required students to complete an individual media production in response to an exam board set brief. Now, it stays 70% exam, 30% NEA, but exam boards have been given the permission to accept mock-ups and prototypes with evidence. So this may be photographs, sketches, drawings, and that sort of thing that we saw before in film studies and in dance and drama. MFL, so modern foreign languages, was 75% exam, so that's listening, reading, writing, and 25% NEA, which was speaking. Now, what they're proposing is that this becomes 100% exam, so that's listening, reading, writing. The spoken language can be reported alongside the assessment grade, but it's an endorsement rather than being assessed in the same way that it was before, so slightly different. And I think that's one that you'll probably have to speak to your MFL teachers about if it's chosen to go forward. Music. Music has quite a bit of changes. It was 40%, 60% in the past. It's still 40-60. But the length of the performances have been changed. That's slightly shorter. Requirements for the composition assessment has been changed as well, a little bit shorter. And that's pretty much it. There don't seem to be that much changes. They seem to have mostly rewritten the same stuff, just with some changes made to the length of things. So it looks like music isn't going to see that much of a change, but the workload might be slightly lighter. PE, which was 60-40 in the past, still 60-40. But they're permitting exam boards to reduce the amount of activities that are done. So down from 3 down to 2, and both are allowed to be individual, which of course is to do with social distancing. It also allows for remote moderation to be done using videos and using that as a form of evidence. PE short course, similar thing. They allow for 1 individual activity rather than having the 2. And you of course don't have to do the team one either. Physics. 100% examination in the past with the 8 practical activities. That of course has changed, like the other science subjects, where it's now where now students are able to watch their teachers do the experiments rather than doing them all themselves. Psychology, religious studies, religious studies short course, sociology and statistics all are proposed to stay exactly as they were before with 100% examination. So that brings that to a wrap. That was for GCSE. as you can see, there is quite a bit of change, especially with subjects which require you to get up and about and have practical elements to them. But the changes aren't as drastic as you might think. I think dance and drama will probably see the most impacts to what they're doing. Dance, drama, and maybe a little bit of PE, and especially art. We're going to see a lot of changes with art. Not having that end element is going to be quite big. That's a big, that normally takes up quite a big chunk of the year, and for that to be gone is going to be very different to mark as well. So yeah, those are the changes there. Hopefully that gave you a brief idea of just what's being proposed. Of course, none of this is concrete yet, so I wouldn't even bothering your teachers about this. What I would say is just bear this in mind, keep an eye out, and keep studying and using your time wisely, because until any of this is confirmed, then things could possibly still carry on exactly as they were before. So hopefully that rundown was useful. If you haven't before, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more riveting videos like this one. And also drop a comment as to what you think about these changes. I'll leave the link to this document down in the description below so that you can have a look through yourself. And in the next video, I'll probably just go over some of the AS and A-level ones because I didn't get enough time to do those as well. And yeah, that's all for today. Until next time.